Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mara, if you did not know. Today I'm doing a sit down video because I feel like I've been doing a lot of vlogs and I haven't done a sit down video in how long? Now I'm just like pulling up all my stats. Oh, well, I guess I did one 10 days ago, which was my sports romance recommendation video. Today I'm doing a tier ranking video because I just thought this would be fun, and I thought we could talk about book tropes because the last time I did a tier ranking video, it was ranking book boyfriends. So I'm gonna do book tropes now. I did start to make my own tier ranking. I was gonna look up all of the tropes and like put all the tropes in here, and then I found one that was already made, so I didn't have to do that. It's just a very classic tier rank, so it's S tier, A, B, C, D, keeping it really simple. Didn't want to change them and make them anything crazy because it's just not really worth it in my opinion. So the first one that's on here, Abduction to Love. I don't know if I've read any book with this. It's giving dark romance, and I haven't read a whole lot of dark romance books, so I don't think I've read anything with this trope. So just because I've never read any, I'm just gonna go off of like the vibe. Like, this is not really normal. Because I've never read any books with it, and that's a little terrifying, I think I have to put it at probably D. Let's just move on. Age gap romance. The first one that just popped in my head is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. That one was crazy. And then I think the most recent age gap romance I read was Caught Up. They didn't have like a huge age gap. I think Miller was like 25 and Kai was like in his 30s. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. I'm not like a huge age gap romance type of fan. It has to be done really well. I don't like age gap romances where like the guy knew the girl when she was young. Like, that's weird. If you met when you're both adult and there's like a bit of an age gap, I'm like, okay, cool, I can work with that. But I don't like the age gap romances where it's like one of them knew each other when the other one was like a child. That's really strange. I'm gonna put age gap at C just because like none of them really stick out to me. Nothing's really like coming to my brain other than a few iffy books I read with that trope. Next is Amnesia. The only books I can think of with this are like old One Direction fan fictions I read in like 7th grade. I feel like this also has to be C just because I can't think of any books, and I don't think I've read any since I was like 12. Authors have just left this to Wattpad. Like, people don't really write this anymore. This was very like 2015 fangirl era. Angst, easy peasy. I don't even know if this really counts as a trope, more of just like a way of delivering a story, but it's an S tier. I mean, who doesn't love a little angst? A little push and shove. Tension, like always 10 out of 10, so good. I recently read Powerless and I loved that. That has a bit of angst in it. Not like super crazy because it's a YA book, but the tension there was just 10 out of 10. If you're talking angst as in like sadness, fights, like I read Consider Me by Becca Mack. That I was thinking about last night before I went to bed. 5-star read. It was so good. That had some angst in it. Like sad angst, emotional angst, fighting. Arranged Marriage. I did just read Twisted Games not too long ago, and I did like that. Twisted Games is Bridget and Reese. And Reese is her bodyguard, and she's like set up to marry this guy, and she's like, no, I want to marry Reese. There was another book I read. The arranged marriage books I've read have been like arranged marriage, but the FMC like breaks away from it and goes to be with somebody else instead. So I'm gonna put it at B. I've never read any books with arranged marriage where like they end up forming a connection, like the two that were arranged. Never read a book like that. If you have any recommendations, let me know. Bad Boy Good Girl. Story of my life. Like, this is, do you know how many times I've lived this trope? And it's like ruined me to pieces. Like, it's been like the worst experience of my life, but I do it every time because it's fun. I'm gonna put this at A. I think it has to be executed really well. I hate the idea of a bad boy good girl trope where the good girl is like super good. You know, like I like a little bit where like just kind of does her own thing and then he comes in and like wrecks everything. Like, I love that because I have trauma. I don't like bad boy as in like hates everyone but you. Like, that's not my kind of vibe because that kind of guy is like not it. If we're talking like bad boy just kind of gets into trouble but is like a sweetheart, I love that. Like, I love that. So that is going to be A tier for sure. The next trope I have on here is banter. This is another one that kind of goes with angst where it's like, this isn't really a trope. It's just like something that a book should have, and if it doesn't have something that's good of that category, like good angst or good banter, then the book like probably is subpar. are. So I'm gonna put this in S tier because I think it's crucial to a book, but as for trope wise, like this isn't a trope, you know, but it is crucial for the book to have this because otherwise it's like, what are you doing? Best Friend's Brother. I just read Best Friend's Brother last night. I read Twisted Hate and I didn't love it, but that's for different reasons, not because of the trope. It was because it was enemies to lovers and they weren't like enemies. Like they didn't give off enemy vibes. They just like to annoy each other. So I didn't feel like that was fair. Did read. Second book in the, I think it's Playing for Keeps with Consider Me by Becca Mack that I was just talking about. The second book, I think, is Play With Me. It was so good. It's Carter's little sister hooking up and going out with Carter's best friend. That trope, but like a little bit inverted. Like I love it. I'm gonna put it in A because it has to be executed well for it to really like stand out to me. Someone makes a bet. This is just giving After vibe, right? Like I don't like this one because the first thing I'm thinking about is like someone makes a bet to like get that person, and I don't like that. Like that, because then you're like playing them. Like even if you catch feelings later on, like you're still playing them. Like I don't like that. So that's gonna be D. Now I'm looking at Amnesia and C, and I'm like, what is she doing up there? But like I haven't read any, so maybe I should put it down to D. I feel like I probably should. Billionaire. I love me a billionaire romance. I love a guy in a white button down, open blazer, jewelry, like tattoos. This is probably you know what? I don't know. Is this S or is this A? I don't know. I'm looking at the books that I've read that are like billionaire, and I don't know. Oh my god, wait, I don't know. This is for vibes. It's simply vibes. Anyways, Drunken Hookup. This is reminding me of Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I don't know if they were really like super drunk, but I'm gonna put this at B. It's just kind of there. Like this usually isn't like the main plot of the story. It's usually something that happens that leads to the main plot. So I'm gonna say B. Enemies to Lovers. This, without a doubt, like let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I didn't love Twisted Hate because they didn't feel like enemies to lovers to me. Like enemies to lovers is more of a fantasy type trope because it's like you have to kill the other person 9 times out of 10. And in enemies to lovers, it has to be executed so well in just a regular romance book. 9 times out of 10, they're not actually enemies. Like there was nothing to really make them enemies, and if it was something super dumb. So I feel like in fantasy, it's easy to make enemies to lovers because they're usually in like a life or death, high stakes situation where somebody's dying or has to die. But enemies to lovers, if it's done like really well, oh my god, like oh my god, get out of my face. Next up, we have fairy tale romance. I feel like of the fairy tale romances I've read, I haven't loved them. It's not really like my kind of trope because fantasy with fairy tale, it's very YA, but it's not usually very high stakes. So I don't mind like a YA fantasy. Like I gave Powerless a 5-star, I loved it. I like more fae type situations like that where it's a little bit more high stakes. And I feel like in fairy tale romances, it's never really like high stake. So I'm gonna put this C, honestly. I just haven't read one that's like stuck out to me. Fake relationship. What's a good fake dating book that I've read recently? There has to be one. Fake dating. Oh, The Graham Effect had fake dating. Fake dating, this is another one that has to be done really well. I feel like this one pairs up with like angst and slow burn really well because you can't just like fake date and then 2 chapters later you're like, oh my god, I love this person. Like where's the flavor? Where's the plot? So I'm gonna put this one in B as well because this is another one that like really has to be done well for me to like really like it. But like if it's done well, it can easily be an S tier. Forbidden Love. I don't know if I've really read any like Forbidden Love books. This is another one where I'm like, give me recs. If you guys have recommendations, like please let me know because I'm gonna put this one probably in C. I just haven't read any that really like do anything for me. I guess like maybe Akatar. Foreign romance. This is another one. I don't think I've ever read a foreign romance. So sorry. Probably have to put this in D because I don't think I've ever read one. Friends to Lovers. I want to say A because it's a trope that, again, if it's done well, it needs to be like perfect. But of the books I've read where it is perfect, like the Addicted series, a lot of like the off-campus Barara U books. What other ones? Do they matter? Well, I think maybe Magnolia Parks if we like squint a lot, and maybe we're like kind of intoxicated, so we can't really see anyway. Some of these, like, I'm just not even gonna include. If you see me skipping over them, it's because I don't care about that plot. Human Vampire. I never read Twilight, never watched Twilight, and oh my god, I want to read The Serpent and the Wings of the Night, but that's like all vampire, right? Like they're all vampires. And then Allie Hazelwood's new book Bride just came out, and that's vampire and werewolf. So I don't know if I've read like Human and Vampire. So sorry. So sorry. Hurt, Comfort, screams Who Did This to You. 10 out of 10 every single time. It could be like the most simple, like, oh, you got a paper cut, somebody comes over and like puts a band-aid on that other person. I will fall to my knees every single time. So that one, 10 out of 10, like I'll talk about it because it's right here. Like the one bed trope, I don't care about this at all. Like, it really doesn't do anything for me, depending on the other trope. If it's just like, they're friends to lovers and then you're like sharing a bed, it's like, well, they're friends anyway, like they don't care. If it's like enemies to lovers and they're sharing a bed, that's different. Hurt comfort, I'll eat it up every single time. Literally every time, without a doubt. Insta love is immediately a D. I hate this. I cannot stand insta love books. Do you know how many books I've read where they're like literally just met, don't know each other at all, and then the next page they're like, what? Love triangle. I also don't like this. It feels bad. It feels wrong, and I always feel guilty even though I'm not even involved in the book. I don't exist with these characters. These characters don't even exist. But still I feel so guilty, and it makes me so angry because it's always the person that you don't want them to pick that they end up being with. This one, I don't know. I kind of feel like B. It's another one that like it needs to be done well. So I'm gonna put that in B. One of them is famous. I usually don't care about this one either. So sorry. Pregnancy. Let's talk about this one. I know everybody's waiting. Pregnancy tropes. I hate just like a random pregnancy trope that's just thrown into the book for no reason. If it's planned out well, if it's by wedlock, a drunken hookup, if it's enemies to lovers, if it's something of that variety where it adds more flavor and more angst and drives the story somewhere, oh my god, I'll eat it up. Eat it up. If it's friends to lovers and like the story's progressed long enough to where it's like it's time for a child and then there's a baby involved and it's just like sweet loving romance, like I love it. I don't like when it pops out of nowhere, but I love it. So again, B tier is like it has to be done really well for me to love it. Renewed first love. This is crazy because I really was gonna say like C, but now I'm thinking about it and I'm going A. Addicted series, Magnolia Parks, like this just screams Lily and Lauren and Magnolia and BJ, and if you know anything about me or have watched any of my videos, you know they're like my two favorite book couples ever. Second Chance. I don't really love this one. I don't know what it is about it. It's a little traumatizing for me. I just feel like second chance romance, there's always like still doubt and a lack of trust. So I don't know how I feel about this one. I think probably C. It depends on the circumstance of like why they broke up or why it didn't work. It's like, well, should I trust you? Anyways, secret relationship. I'm gonna put this with best friend's brother, like literally right next to it because those usually go hand in hand. Secret relationship is just one that like I haven't read a lot of, but the books I have read with secret relationship, they're good. It's nothing like insane, but when it's paired with something else, 10 out of 10, right? So I'm just gonna skip through some of these because I don't love all of these. Slow burn, B. And I'll discuss later. Yeah, I think that's all of the ones I'm gonna do because I don't love all the other ones. Anyways, let me break down my chart now so everything kind of makes sense. First, we have S tier. S tier is like 10 out of 10. I eat it up every single time. I will never not love this. Angst, banter, billionaire, enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, and hurt comfort / who did this to you. A tier is like the books that I've read with this, I've really enjoyed and I really like them and I recommend them, but it doesn't mean that it's gonna be like a 10 out of 10 every single time. So that's Bad Boy Good Girl, Best Friend's Brother, Secret Relationship, and Renewed First Love. B tier is like it has to be done a certain way for me to really love it, and that is arranged marriage, drunken hookup, fake relationship, mutual, just like they don't really talk about their feelings with each other, they keep thinking that the other person isn't in it, pregnancy, and slow burn. D tier, I've read like a few of these ones. I don't really care too much about them. If they're there, I'm not mad about it. That is Age Gap, Fairy Tale, Forbidden Love, Sharing a Bed, One of Them is Famous, and Second Chance Love. And then D tier is kind of I've never read it or I've hated it. So I will talk about which ones I've never read and which ones I've hated. Abduction to Love, never read. It also seems like I probably won't like it, but I haven't read it. Someone Makes a Bet. I don't like this. It makes it feel really wrong and I feel awful. Amnesia, never read it except for fan fiction. Born Romance, I don't think I've ever read this. I mean, I feel like I would like that. I just literally don't think I've ever read it, so I can't really rate it. Human Vampire, another one that I haven't read, so I don't really have an opinion. Insta Love, don't like it. Love Triangle, another one that I don't like at all. 9 times out of 10, I don't like it. Those are all of my book tropes ranked. This obviously isn't all of them. Maybe at a later time I'll do one that like I've made. This is just a random one that I found, so I figured why not make it easy for myself. Let me know if you guys agree, disagree with any of these opinions. Thank you guys very much for watching. Also, if you guys have any recommendations based off of these tropes, please let me know, depending on if they're ones that I've never read or ones that you think I might like based on other books that I mentioned that I like. Please let me know because I really want to expand my growing TBR. Thank you guys very, very much, and I will see you guys when I see you.